What's happening, folks? Today I'm here to talk about the brand new DreamWorks animation film that's streaming on Netflix, Orion and the Dark. Now, I was very excited for this movie upon its release back when I saw it revealed at Tudum or some Netflix event where they revealed a bunch of trailers. I caught a glimpse of it and I was like, hey, new DreamWorks movie? This looks pretty fun and the premise is pretty dope. I like this. I can't wait for it to come out next year. So, it finally released. I booted it up on streaming, sat down in a great mood, saw the movie was pretty short. I'm like, oh, okay, hour and 32 minutes, short, digestible movie. All right, bet, let's go. Let's start this. Let's get this train rolling. And then I walked out of it. Well, I didn't walk out of it. I was sitting down watching it, so I guess I clicked off of it is better than walked out of it, but whatever. When the movie ended, I was just like, it was fine. It was okay. It's not their best movie, but it's not their worst either. It's just serviceable. And, it's not for anything crazy. Like, the voice acting and everything was really good in the movie. There aren't weird line deliveries or anything like that. The animation is pretty good. There isn't anything crazy like Puss in Boots level of animation, but it's also, very good for an animated movie, and it looks very stylized. I actually kind of got, not from the animation, but I guess maybe more the storytelling and the way they directed everything, Diary of a Wimpy Kid vibes from, the beginning of the movie, but maybe that's just me. And then there were a few, establishing shots that looked pretty cool, so overall, I liked every aspect about the movie except for one specific thing, and that was the way they told the narrative. But in order to explain why I have a problem with that, I have to tell you what the movie is about. So, the premise of Orion in the Dark showcases a child named Orion. Obviously, his name is in the frickin' title. But Orion has a phobia of essentially everything. From normal things like bullies and talking to the girl that he likes, to more complicated and weird things like destroying his school by accidentally clogging a single toilet, causing a massive flood, or evil murder clowns. So, Pennywise, basically. I mean, come on. There aren't really any other evil, murderous clowns that he could be afraid of, right?
You look nervous. Is it the scars?
Yeah, I guess, I guess him too. But nevertheless, he has these kinds of phobias of just about everything, and he has no courage and self-confidence in himself. But the biggest thing that he's afraid of is dark, or darkness in general. So he always sleeps with a nightlight on, he tries to have the door open, he runs into his parents' room every time he goes to sleep because he can't handle being alone in the dark. And because of this fear, the primordial being of darkness meets up with him and is like, kid, I'm sick and tired of you being afraid of me. I'm going to show you that there's no reason to be afraid of me and the dark in itself. So we're going to go on a little globe-trotting adventure to help you build courage and confidence in yourself and break your phobia of me. And that's more or less the story. Orion is traveling around with dark and the other entities that are the primordial beings of night itself that cause all the different things like sleep, insomnia, weird noises that happen in the dark, and deathly quiet silence. So that's kind of what the movie is about, and I really liked that premise. I thought it was a really cool idea. I didn't know at the time when I was watching the movie it's based off a children's novel. I've never read it, but that's a little fun fact I figured I would bring up the video at some point. But that's more or less the story of Orion in the Dark. And the problem that I have with this is that partway through the movie, you learn that the story we're watching isn't real. You learn that there's an adult Orion who's telling this story to his child as a bedtime story to help her get over her own fear of the dark. And I wasn't a big fan of this because I liked the initial premise more than the twist reveal. So, it doesn't really change anything knowing the fact that it's a bedtime story that he's telling his daughter, but for me, I went into it thinking that this was just a fantasy movie about Orion traveling with these essential gods to learn how to be more confident and brave in himself. And the movie even kind of starts off in that way, setting up things for Orion to overcome. He has a bully that torments him and ruins his life, but he's too afraid to stand up to him. And there's a girl that he's really interested in, but he's too afraid to talk to her. So they establish trials and tribulations that he's going to have to overcome, presumably by the end of the movie, after he's learned courage and confidence in himself and how to overcome his fears. But once you get to the midpoint of the movie and they reveal that this whole thing is just a fake bedtime story that an adult version of Orion is telling his daughter, the movie shifts and completely changes how the story is told. Instead of it being just from the perspective of this child going on this journey, it's now, this is a story being told by Orion and, as the movie progresses, his daughter coming up with an ending to the story because they're just having fun spending time with each other. And although that's cute and sweet, I liked the initial story significantly more than what this reveal had to offer. I probably wouldn't have as much of an issue with the movie if it started off with Orion's daughter was afraid of the dark, and Orion walked into her room and was like, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you a story about me when I was growing up, so it'll help you get over your personal feelings of the dark. And he creates this fantastical story about traveling with the entity of darkness to overcome his fears, to help his daughter overcome her fears, and then it transitioning into the two of them trying to figure out how to end the story together is something I would be more okay with. But the way it is in the movie, it's a weird twist reveal for some reason. Like, I don't exactly understand why it's like this. Again, I never read the children's book that it's based off of, so it could be the same way in the book, but it just feels awkward to me that the movie starts off selling you on this fantastical idea and journey that you're going on with the character, only to pull the rug out from under you and be like, it's actually just a bedtime story. I don't understand why it did that, because this isn't really the kind of movie that needed a big twist reveal, in my opinion. It could have just been very straightforward and it would have been a fun and enjoyable movie. But as it is now, it feels lackluster to me because it's not what I was expecting. I shouldn't say I'm upset that's not what I'm expecting. I'm very much a fan of twists and turns in movies, but I liked what was offered to me prior to the reveal more than what the reveal had to offer, if that makes sense. So Orion and his daughter having a fun story, telling this adventure that we're watching in real time as the movie is cute and adorable, but I like the adventure more than the fact that it's a fake story that these two are telling. And like I said, if this movie started off by telling me from the jump that this is a fabricated story that Orion is telling his daughter, I'd be more okay with it. A perfect example, and I know this is going to sound like a weird example, but trust me, it makes sense. Zack Snyder's movie, Sucker Punch. I know that movie is regarded as complete and utter trash, but trust me, it makes perfect sense. So in that movie, it is about a bunch of mental patients trying to escape a hospital, and the way that it is depicted to the audience is that the main character, Baby Doll, is fantasizing that they're all prisoners and being forced to strip for like a bunch of like mob bosses and stuff inside of this facility, and every time they go to steal an aspect of something that they need to escape, like a map or a key or whatever, it goes into a different fantasy that she has in her mind. Like, perfect example, them fighting as like ninja samurai on a train to steal something. So the movie basically shows you a bunch of cool action set pieces to compensate for the boring mundaneness of someone sneaking into an office and like stealing a key. That's what the movie does, and I'm fine with that because the movie didn't drop me in the middle of this like sci-fi ninja samurai action movie and then go, actually, this is the delusion of a mental patient. It just showed me that this is a mental patient who has delusions of grandeur, and then it showed me those delusions as the movie unfolded, while Orion in the Dark showed me the delusion and then went back and said, nah, this is a mental patient having a breakdown. And I'm just like, oh, I don't like that as much as what happened before. So I hope that clears up any kind of confusion. And I know I'm talking about a children's movie, yet the comparison I used is an R-rated movie about guns, sex, and violence. We don't have to talk about it, but that's how I feel about Orion in the Dark. It's still enjoyable, but I wish it wouldn't have, pulled the rug out from underneath me. Especially because we don't really address any of the things that were set up at the beginning of the movie. Like, we never get to see Orion stand up to his bully or ask out the girl that he was interested in, and I thought that was really disappointing. Now, granted, before someone comes at me in the comments, it's like, but Cameron, at the end of the movie, you see that Orion's wife is actually the girl from the beginning of the movie, and it's like, yes, I understand that. Orion probably used real-world elements from his life in the story that he was telling his daughter, but we don't see the child Orion go back to his school after his adventures with Dark to stand up to his bully and ask out the girl that he likes. It's the equivalent of if you were watching the Super Bowl. You watched up to the halftime show, but then something happened and you had to leave. And then someone came up to you before you got to watch the second half and told you how the game ended. Yeah, even if the team you wanted to win won, it still doesn't change the fact that it feels unsatisfying because you didn't get to see how they got to that point. You just know the answer now, and that's how I feel about this. So, that's really all I have to say about Orion of the Dark. I know it sounded like I was being really harsh on this, but I did think this movie was fine and enjoyable. I think if you sit down with like your kid, or maybe you're just a fan of animation DreamWorks movie, it'll be a short, fun watch that you could just like put on in the background and enjoy yourself with. So if you have seen Orion in the Dark, please let me know down in the comments down below. Also in the description, I have my links to my social media if you want to follow me there. You know, basically just a Twitter account. I don't really have anything else, so follow me on Twitter, please. But outside of that, I'm the innocent villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent to prove villainous, and I'll catch you in the next video.